One day thousands of monsters descended on the Earth, and the Earth became a battlefield for thousands of nations. Humanity must face the invasion of these monsters and fight. They all have no choice but to fight him because currently the Earth is on the verge of destruction. From these various battles, humanity experienced crushing defeats, so that the number of people who have superpowers is decreasing, and the lines of defense are also decreasing. Their defense line was getting thinner, and if the monsters continued to penetrate humanity's defense line, then Yi City would really be destroyed, so they decided to counterattack. Now the Eastern Alliance is gathering millions of individuals to fight the monsters. Many people died on the battlefield. Most of them are still young. They began to carry out massive recruitment by gathering human resources to fight all these monsters. They began to register with mostly young members, all of whom dedicated themselves to fighting on the front lines. However, there was a young man who registered, but he didn't want to be involved on the front line. The young man was named Nan Ziying. He refused to go to the front lines. Then he preferred to go to the back line for logistics matters. People also mocked him because he was a coward who only wanted to live and not fight for his nation. Even though for them Ying is still very young, and he should be on the front lines fighting these monsters, and not on the back lines. This veteran considers Ying very suitable to go to fight on the front lines, considering his age and good academic abilities. But it is Ying's choice that must be respected. But these people call Ying a coward and also curse at him. The battle finally arrived. The military prepared all its troops to fight. Ying saw from a distance the residents who were giving full support to the military, hoping that everything would be fine. But when Ying opened the phone, news about a young man who refused to go to the front lines had spread, and that young man was him. It's not without reason that Ying refuses to fight, but previously he was a soldier who went to the front lines to fight against monsters. Previously, Ying was a soldier who was dedicated to the battlefield. He was the one who strategized how to defeat the monsters. And he was also developing his 5 talents within his body. But at an important moment, he really couldn't fight anymore and Ying was defeated by the monster. But somehow he was still alive. Maybe this was because his determination to survive was very high. At the time of awakening from his determination that kept him alive, Ying still kept the power of his talent in his body, such as beast taming, elemental, Asura, formation, and undead. He is awakening all these talents. If all these talents awaken, Ying will be stronger and can defeat even large numbers of these monsters, and humanity will be saved from destruction. Now that he needed a lot of resources to awaken all his talents, he went to the trial ground. They are preparing logistical supplies for the military who are fighting. But because the number of them here is small and most of them are old, so they have had difficulty getting supplies lately because the stock they get comes from mutants they have to defeat, and they are also too old to be able to defeat these vicious mutants. But at the same time, Ying came to offer help in defeating the mutants so that supplies would be sufficient and he could get resources. Some of them remembered that there was news about young people who refused to go to the front lines and chose to go to the back lines. The woman gave Ying a weapon and prepared to face the mutants. But this woman seemed fascinated with Ying, and they told her that Ying was the young man being talked about in the news. The long night is coming and humanity has no choice left. For the future of humanity, Ying willing shadow in the darkness. Even though he had to get a lot of curses, it would not reduce his determination. Ying already knows that the future he will face will be difficult. So his job now is to only do what he thinks is best. Ying is ready to face all the obstacles that are in front of him, and he will not hesitate to destroy all the obstacles that stand in his way, even though it might have bad consequences in front of people. But he is ready for all the consequences whatever happens. These mutants used to be ordinary animals, but because they experienced, they became mutants because of the spiritual energy that emerged from monster races from various nations who came to Earth. This mutant is called Umbrella Bird, which has a weakness in the back of its head. Ying tried to attack at weak point. Ying managed to defeat him and get the Source Stone, and this stone can provide an increase in talent. If he could dodge all of this monster's attacks and attack the weak points quickly, then he would be able to finish it off quickly and the damage would be minimal. Ying avoided all of the monster's attacks while counterattacking. He did it great. His attack and defense movements were equally balanced, so he could make efficient movements without any injuries and also do it quickly. The large number of monster attacks didn't seem to work on Ying, and he made a move with strong attack power. His attacks hit all the weak points of the mutant so that his movements were very efficient. From the results of defeating these mutants, he got a lot of improvement in his talent. Ying is surrounded by a group of mutants, and the strongest mutant appears, namely Umbrella Bird Emperor. He realized that with his current physical condition, he still couldn't face the Bird Emperor directly. But Ying didn't run out of ideas. He tried to dodge and attack the Bird Emperor's weakest point. He had previously fought with this mutant, but now that he had risen from the dead, his body was weakened. Therefore, direct combat was terrible for him. This mutant's body is very hard. Ying continued to attack until he found his opponent's weak point. Outside of Ying's place, these people doubt Ying's abilities and always look down on Ying. Whether he can pass the A-level challenge of this trial. The system sounded that someone had successfully passed the level A challenge. And this made them quite surprised and then confused because Ying completed this trial quickly. But something surprising happened. They were very surprised by Ying's condition when they left the place. He was bloodied and covered in wounds, and he managed to kill 2 mutants in his trial. Ying has passed the level A trial. Ying left the place, leaving behind the mutant corpses, which they could manage as logistical material to replenish food supplies. But this number was too much for them. Ying also cleaned himself up from the previous fight. At the same time, there was an announcement about the next round of defense starting soon. Here Ying knows that any group sent to the battlefield to the front lines will lose after entering the battlefield, making the front line situation grave, and there wasn't much time left until the 8th line of defense would be destroyed. There was no rest time. He had to continue the 2nd floor tower trial as soon as possible. This grandma was still taunting Ying that he wouldn't come back because of the wounds caused by the previous fight. But unexpectedly, they were confused about why Ying was still here with his body still injured. Ying said that he wanted to continue the trial to the 2nd floor, but with his injured body condition like this, it was impossible for him to fight to the 2nd level. Because different from the previous mutants, the mutants on the 2nd floor were very large and had hard bodies and strong attacks. They still mocked Ying because if he was strong, why didn't he fight on the front lines? And for them, it was just to show off. The battle at level 2 of the tower will start soon. Ying is getting ready. The fight began, but when Ying was getting ready to attack, he was surprised by a strong and fast attack from behind, thus making it bounce far away. But he was still able to survive the direct attack. With his current condition, injured from the last fight, he couldn't face the mutants directly. It looks like the mutant is mocking Ying. But with a body full of wounds, he did not choose to fight without preparation. Ying managed to avoid the attack carried out by the mutant. Then he anticipated the movement of the large mutant by attacking the mutant's weakest point. Then he managed to defeat one mutant with his sword. Ying's plan is to tame a level 2 mutant, then take it, then deal with it. To do all that, he used the awakened taming beast talent. By using this taming beast talent, the job becomes easier, because this skill causes the area so that all the mutants in this area become calmer with a little coercion from the power of Ying's taming beast talent. It's time for Ying to continue leveling, and he plans on reaching 3 in one go. The level 2 tower battle was finished, and Ying managed to pass level 2 by defeating all the mutants. Then people were busy collecting these mutants. 3 days have passed. Defeating a total of 12,000 mutants has made his talent increase rapidly. And now is the time for Ying to tame the beasts out there. In the evening he will move, and the location is not too far from the city. The work here is finished, and they don't need to work overtime today. And Ying immediately left because he had things to do. But this grandma still looks unhappy with Ying. This person told grandma not to always mock him because he had done his best. Liu approached Ying and congratulated him on working hard until today. The situation outside was very tense as many injured people were sent by car from the front line. This situation illustrates that the situation on the front lines is very unconducive. A support rocket from the rear guard was launched to assist the front line in fighting the monster nation. For Ying, this situation is very serious and very detrimental, because the destruction of the defense line isn't far off. There was no time left. He had to hurry and quickly set a plan to handle this. At the same time, there was a group of trucks that experienced an engine failure in the middle of the journey. From a distance, someone was seen running towards the group of trucks. They were confused as to why there were people running at night in this dangerous place. That person was Ying, and he was warned not to go out at night because it was dangerous. They had to immediately forget about that person and focus on their mission to deliver medicines as quickly as possible to the city hospital. If they stay here for too long, it will be very dangerous because there are lots of mutant wolves roaming around. Just as they wanted to leave, an unexpected incident happened. They were attacked by something. It turns out they were attacked by a steel giant wolf. They panicked and had to leave here immediately. Then they worked together to overcome this, with one driving and the other holding them back with a gun. It seems like chaos is happening on the route of the medicine delivery truck. But at the same time, Ying is also experiencing danger, with many mutants around her. It turns out that those who surrounded Ying were the same mutants, namely steel giant wolves. They experienced crazy evolution as a result of the strong spiritual energy of the monster race. On the other side, the situation is still tense. They are still protecting themselves and fighting the mutant wolves. Then they will continue to go whatever the future holds. On the other side, Ying started fighting with the mutant wolves around him. While the fight with the mutant wolves was taking place, at the same time the mutant wolf king arrived, and this was what Ying had been waiting for. If he managed to overcome this chaos, then the route of the medical truck would be safe. Ying has been surrounded by a group of mutant wolves and the mutant wolf king. Finally, according to his plan, he awakened a talent beast to overcome all these mutant wolves. When the mutant wolves attacked Ying, he activated his taming beast talent on the mutant wolves. The effect of this talent makes the entire mutant wolf seem to fly upwards. Due to the attack launched by Ying, these mutants had strange reactions, such as going on crazy rampages. But he remained focused on controlling all the mutants to calm down. Shoot the horse before the rider, to fight the thieves, capture their king. That's the term Ying used when catching them. Then he started flying upwards. Some of the mutant wolves have calmed down, and here Ying's taming priority is the mutant king wolf, who is the leader of the pack. He started jumping on the king wolf's head while using his skills. Ying began to use his talent taming skills on the steel wolf king, so that this mutant could be tamed. Then the king wolf showed a reaction like dizziness when hit by Ying's skill. The colored energy, like evil energy that was inside the mutant, slowly started to come out. In that area, it was like there was a big tree covering the mutant. This is the aura of Ying's beast taming talent. On the other side, they were still facing danger from this mutant wolf, and suddenly their truck stopped in the middle of the road. It seemed like something dangerous had not escaped them. The attacks from the ferocious mutant wolves had not stopped, and they were shocked by the attacks, thus destroying the glass of the truck. But strangely, at the time of the brutal attack, suddenly the attacks from the wolf mutants stopped, and the wolf mutants left the group of medicine delivery trucks. On the other side, it turns out that it was the work of Ying who succeeded in taming this pack of mutant wolves and their leader. It seems that Ying's mission was successful by capturing this pack of mutant wolves and their leader. They were amazed at the strength of that person who tamed thousands of wolves. This talent of the highest level was able to do all this. Today Ying has fulfilled the 1,000 quota from his catch today, and he has to save source stones for the future. Ying instructed the mutant wolf pack not to attack humans again. There are still 3 more places he has to go with the same mission to tame mutants. Ying needs 10 million mutants for his operation to defeat the monster race. He has also secured the route for medical delivery. At the same time, there was a message telling him to come to a meeting at the trial ground. Actually, what happened? In the logistics factory, there are high-ranking officials who check the performance of logistics workers. These officers criticize the performance of logistics workers because they are incompetent in their work and are considered slow in terms of logistical supplies for the front line. This is due to the lack of manpower to eradicate level 4 mutants, because most of them here are old. While criticizing, this officer didn't want to understand the problems that were occurring in this logistics factory. All he wanted was to be able to send logistics as quickly as possible to the battlefield. All this was too late because the beasts were already at the highest level, and these people needed time to defeat the high-level beasts. For this officer, the people in Yi City's logistics department were useless, and he threatened that if nothing changed here, the people of Yi City deserved to be punished. Liu tried to explain. The high-level beasts at level 4 already exceeded the abilities of Yi City's people. But this officer didn't care. For him, the city of Yi got a bad reputation because it couldn't carry out burdens and responsibilities like this. At the same time, this ant did not accept that she had cursed at them, because they had all worked well and sacrificed their time to dedicate this responsibility. This ant couldn't accept being treated like this because many of her family had gone to the front line and then not returned, with a loud voice and anger. Suddenly, the officer's bodyguard tried to hit the ant. When the bodyguard put out his fist, Ying suddenly came and hit the bodyguard on the chin. The blow was quite hard, causing the bodyguard to fall, and the officer was shocked to see Ying's action. Ying's arrival here seems to be highly anticipated by the people here, and this veteran is confused about why Ying is here. He also looked surprised because he was able to beat the ability of a level 5 holder. This officer didn't even know who he was. The officer pointed the gun at Ying. Here he knows that in his previous life when he was a soldier and before experiencing awakening, this person has problems in his life. His name is Lin Yaokai. Lin officers traded various military supplies from the back lines to the front lines. Ying must take care of this person as soon as possible, but before that he must drain all the resources from that person. Ying argues that no one is rebelling here. Why is he pointing the gun at him? The people here support Ying completely and counterattack the officer with all their arguments. Officer Lin could no longer dodge. He thought the people here were just a bunch of weak people. Officer Lin finally found out about Ying, that he was the person who had been widely reported as not wanting to go to the front lines to fight, and chose to go to the back line of logistics. According to Officer Lin, this could be a crime and a penalty would be imposed. But Ying didn't care about that. He told Officer Lin that he was the one who wiped out thousands of mutants at the trial ground, and that if he was punished, the supply would slow down. They were both shocked to hear Ying's statement, and according to him, Officer Lin wanted to take advantage of this situation by making it difficult to defeat high-level mutants who could affect human minds with their destructive energy. Ying tries to play with words, with herself being immediately punished, even though previously he wanted to take on this job. Ying's words influenced the thoughts of Officer Lin, who thought it would be an advantage for Lin if Ying could still finish off the mutants here. Then tomorrow Officer Lin will send 5,000 level 4 mutants to the trial ground. If he can defeat these mutants in a week, Ying will escape punishment. Liu offers to help Ying, but it's not necessary because he will do this alone. Among the level 4 mutants, there are creatures that have strong defenses and strong mental disorders. But thanks to Officer Lin who collects mutants, Ying will get the perfect ingredients to increase his Asura talent. Then Ying's plan for the future is that first he will finish off these mutants, then Lin Yaokai and his network. The next day, the officer had sent 5,000 level 4 mutants. Then the officer assigned Nan Ziying to Yi City's logistics division to process the 5,000 mutants. Ying must complete this task within a week and must submit to the authority of military supply officer Lin Yaokai. This officer also provided a statement that Ying had been charged with inciting a worker riot and assaulting an officer. Any delay in work will lead to his indictment, which means Ying will be executed. This had previously been agreed to by both parties because Ying had taken the military oath to them. When the time comes, this officer will execute Ying, and he seems to really enjoy it. Then he gave a piece of paper to Ying. When he received it, Ying looked at the officer with a look full of anger. The officers looked displeased with Ying because of his actions. Then Ying begins the process of defeating the mutants by giving Ying instructions from the factory people. That to deal with level 4 mutants he has to use a mask containing anesthetic fumes. But some of the anesthetic supplies have been sent to the front line, so there are not many supplies here. They thought that Ying was psychic because he was very confident. However, this was denied because the fat officer had checked Ying with his psychic, and it was not found that Ying was using psychic. This officer will take the opportunity if Ying loses control when dealing with the mutant, with the plan to make Ying go crazy, and the officer will execute him when the time comes, and then take the loot that Ying has. Finally, Ying has entered the trial ground with level 4 mutants. Then he begins to analyze his opponents, that these mutants are physically incapable, but their mental strength is very great. And the mutant had also carried out a mental attack on Ying. The power of illusion was created by this mutant along with the extraordinary mental energy released by this mutant to attack Ying's mental state. It was as if Ying saw a huge skull monster attacking him, even though it was just an illusion, but it looked real in his eyes. An illusory attack that was so powerful, it was like a physical attack launched to attack Ying, even though it was just a trick and an illusion created by the mutant. At the same time, Ying countered by attacking the mutant's weakest point. For him, the lowly illusions made by the mutant didn't work on him. He managed to defeat one mutant, but this was not enough because he needed a lot of maligns to increase his Asura talent. Finally, this mutant showed its seriousness in fighting against Ying. This mutant began to emit thick black energy. This energy contains power in the form of strong intimidation and can affect Ying's mentality. This black energy began to enter Ying's mind, attacking his through, with intimidating words that made Ying's fighting spirit weaken. Now this mutant is trying to control Ying's mind and mentality. When the mutant launched a mental attack, Ying managed to break the negative thoughts, with his hatred and desire for revenge against the monster race being very high. Then humans will choose their own destiny. The mutant was confused as to why Ying could survive the mental energy attack, because Ying used Asura talent to protect him. Asura has the ability to increase his body strength and mental power. And this malign energy is the fastest shortcut to improving his Asura talent. Then Ying activates his Asura talent by trying to control the mutant's power. It seems like this makes Ying a little difficult when trying to control the mutant's mind power. Officer Lin was troubled by the urgent demand for good stuff. Not only Hua country, but other countries' front lines were also in bad condition. He had to make money quickly while there is a chance, otherwise all the mutants he had prepared would be wasted. However, his subordinates have a greedy nature and Officer Lin must be careful with secret military investigations. Officer Lin received a call from the logistics factory that Nan Ziying had succeeded in completing and eliminating the 5,000 mutants within 4 days. Hearing this, Officer Lin was shocked, and because of this, Officer Lin was happy because his money-making machine, Ying, was working. But at the same time, there were officers who were not happy with Ying's success. After eliminating the mutants, Ying looked exhausted. But from his efforts he succeeded in getting what he wanted, namely increasing his physical and mental strength, then getting the first skill from Asura talent. His plan to go tame mutants out there will be easier. When this ant spoke to the officer, Ying had maintained the good name of Yi City's logistics team. This ant's words denounced the officers, which made him angry. For Ying, this officer is an ability holder. Then this officer was angry because they had cut off his income and lowly people like them were insulting him. This person tried to investigate Ying using his psychic powers. However, the other officer tried to forbid him that the orders from his boss, Lin Yaokai, were only to check the success of this mutant settlement. But he didn't care what his boss said. Finally, the officer started to use his psychological powers towards Ying, and Ying knew that he was trying to be controlled by the officer. When it started to invade Ying's mind, this man was shocked because this was not according to his wishes. After attacking his mental state, he should have been able to see the entity inside the mental Ying, and all he saw was darkness. It seemed that someone was calling him, and it turned out that it was Ying's psychic aura. This officer was very surprised that Ying had psychic powers and their levels were so far apart. Even though previously he was sure that Ying did not have psychic powers. This officer didn't believe that Ying could awaken his psychic powers so quickly. This level of malignant energy power cannot be dealt with by this person. Then Ying gave his negative energy to attack the officer's mental state. As a result of Ying's mental attack on the officer, the man lost his mind and went crazy. He spoke incoherently. Then they were confused as to why the officer was acting strangely and speaking incoherently. This officer suspected that the person had been exposed to the residual mental energy of the mutants, and for him this was a disgrace to his boss. So the officer must immediately resolve it in his own way. After completing his task and apologizing to them for making a fuss, he went to Ying and confirmed that he had been hit by a mental attack from the mutants, so that Ying was no longer useful to him. Then he must report this. The person left, but in reality this was Ying's plan. Because thanks to him defeating the fat officer, he got level 6 of his Asura talent. Ying finally woke up from her sleep. Everyone here was worried about her condition. Then Aunt Wang told them to go back to work because Ying was fine. And Ying wants to know if Lin Yaokai is sending more mutants. They weren't working because of the mutants being sent, but rather some of the staff had been sent to help other factories and military needs on the front lines had doubled. And the battle on the 9th line was lost and drew humanity to the 8th line. The conditions there were very bleak, both in battles on land and in the sky with mutant races. The expected level 7 strength Son of Thunder punishment has lost and survived, but with one arm missing, while the level 6 strength Flame Giant has made a great sacrifice for the nation. Ying didn't expect defeat to come so quickly in this phase. Then Aunt Wang told me something. Ying was suddenly chosen to be the head of Yi City's logistics branch. This made him a little surprised. They all agreed and chose Ying as the head of Yi City's logistics branch. However, the task of leadership is more difficult because the staff has been reduced by half and the need for military supplies has doubled. Liu is worried that many of them will not be able to survive because of the constant work. And it seems like Ying already knows how to solve this problem with his developed talents. Liu told them all that the task given to them was very burdensome, and she tried to appeal to the leadership. But at the same time, Ying emphasized to all of them that he had thought about this task well, and assured them that we could all complete this all well. While the conversation was going on, he saw a human shadow pass by him very quickly. Then Ying chased him. When he arrived there, he didn't see anything, but at the same time he was trapped, and someone pointed a gun at him, and the person's movements were so fast that Ying couldn't move. It turns out it was a woman, and she told Ying about Lin Yaokai. Regarding Ying's involvement with Lin because they were considered to be working together in terms of the orders that Ying received from Lin, and how many total batches there were. But Ying avoided it because she was not involved with Lin. This woman thought that Ying was Lin's accomplice. While the woman continued to interrogate Ying, at the same time he took out his Asura talent to get out of this detrimental situation. The woman immediately shot at Ying, and with his Asura power he was able to block it with his hands, by saying that he was not Lin Yaokai's accomplice. Then why Ying helped Lin? It was because he was just finishing his work in Yi City. Ying explains that even though Lin is like a worm, trash and even a traitor, but technically he is still Ying's superior. Finally, this woman understood and offered to collaborate with Ying. Then she introduced himself. Her name was Zhang Yuan, part of the supply and intelligence section of the 8th Defense Line. Ying immediately rejected Yuan's invitation to collaborate. Yuan concludes that Ying seems to want to cause trouble with her because he refuses to cooperate. Then Ying explains that he is the one who can finish off Lin Yaokai. Then Yuan didn't understand what Ying meant. Ying finally explained that there were two options if Yuan intervened, namely assassination and internal whistleblowing. And if assassination, then if there is more than one person on the other party, how Yuan makes sure to silence everyone involved. Besides, if assassination fails, what happens to Yuan? Meanwhile, handling the investigation will drag on and humanity will suffer defeat. If that happens, it will trigger a bad reaction for workers and make the backline chaotic. Then Yuan couldn't refute it and asked Ying for advice. The answer is that Ying will handle this. Yuan immediately didn't believe Ying's words because he was also a deserter. Then Ying began to show his abilities so that she would believe in him by making sure that Yuan could defeat him. Then mentioned himself a week ago. Yuan looks at Ying's power beyond reason. From Ying's words a week ago, she remembered and analyzed why he refused to fight on the front lines and chose to fight mutants on the trial ground. Then Yuan concluded that Ying increased his strength this quickly to the resources of the mutant trial ground. Ying confirmed this to Yuan that the one who had to deal with Lin Yaokai had to be him. Finally, Yuan agreed to Ying's plan. But before that, Ying asked Yuan to take his place in killing the mutants at the trial ground, while he was busy dealing with Lin Yaokai later. Then according to Yuan, Ying should no longer need mutants because he is already strong enough, and she thinks that Ying's increased strength is not for humanity. But Ying immediately denied this. Of course he did this for humanity and defeated the 10,000 races. But the power is not very strong. Ying left him. In Yuan's eyes, Ying does not show lies and will trust Ying completely. The next day, the factory workers were busy with the mutants who had been sent to the back line of logistics, and these mutants were at level 5. Liu was worried about Ying's condition because the last time he faced a level 4 mutant, he was battered and bruised. But Ying will be fine. Officer Lin was very impressed with Ying's hard work. In contrast to Lin's previous subordinates, Ying does not require kickbacks from his work. From this, Officer Lin can definitely reap a lot of benefits from this. Officer Lin offered that whatever Ying's needs would be fulfilled. Then he would be willing to personally award medals to Chief Nan Ziying and his crew. But Ying ignored Lin's words and continued working, giving instructions to his crew. Officer Lin immediately left the place because it seemed Ying was busy. As planned, he would wait for the right time to harvest everything from Lin. It's time for Ying to defeat a level 5 mutant. For him, this is a way to increase his talent. He prepared to attack and immediately activated his skill. Ying uses his Asura talent to defeat the level 5 mutants. He focuses the power of his talent. Then his Asura instincts will increase. Then from exterminating the mutants he got points to increase his Asura talent. March 20th. Eagle and 8 defenses line. A brutal battle for 4 hours. 800,000 soldier fell and 50,000 spurs perished. March 22nd. The 8 defense line at Northern Glacier Clamber. 600,000 soldier fell. At the time of all these events, Ying was still increasing his Asura powers by defeating mutants on the trial ground. On March 24th, the 8 defense lines of the Southern Glacier faced a steel slaughter race, and in just 1 hour 500,000 troops were wiped out. On the other side, day after day Ying continuously tries to increase his Asura talent by defeating mutants on the trial ground. On March 26th, the French 8th line of defense and the Kawasaki nation's 8th line bot collapsed in just half an hour. Finally, Ying had enough to increase her Asura talent, and he has got all his Asura powers. Ying has reached maximum power in his Asura talent, and he will soon test how far his Asura power can work against all the mutants here, in large numbers. Ying carried out his sword attack in one slash towards the crowd of all the mutants, in max-level Asura mode. Unexpectedly, the power was so great, all the mutants were destroyed in an instant. Obviously, this power was very different from the previous level of Asura. Humanity continues to suffer defeats, and this happens very quickly. Then he must immediately carry out plans to attack the racial nation as soon as possible. Suddenly Officer Lin came to see him and offered him whether he wanted to take a position in the military. What Ying wants is not a military position, but Lin Yaokai. Lin was shocked when he heard this statement. Ying wants Lin to go to the northern wilderness tonight and bring back a batch of stealth wolves. Hearing this, Lin was relieved. It turned out it wasn't for him. Evening arrived. Ying was going to end Lin Yaokai's final here, with several scenarios and plans that he had prepared before here. In the northern wilderness area, there are many packs of stealth wolves here, before carrying out the plan. He prepared everything, such as checking his taming beast talent system, so that this plan would run smoothly. Finally, Lin Yaokai arrived with a convoy of trucks. He ordered his subordinates to use the charge cage skill to capture thousands of stealth wolves, and immediately sent them by teleport. At the same time, he heard a noise behind him. They were all surprised because a large pack of steel wolves had surrounded their truck convoy. Lin ordered his subordinates to teleport, but they couldn't because the teleport requirement had to be less than 1 kilometer. They decided to run away from here. Good timing. Ying had been waiting for this moment, with Lin deliberately used as bait for him to take action in his mission to catch the stealth wolf. Then he prepared to use his taming beast talent skill to catch all the mutants who were chasing the truck convoy. Ying released his beast taming talent with full power, and the mutants were hit by Ying's beast taming talent aura. They were relieved because the mutant steel wolves were successfully controlled by Ying, and they didn't know that Ying had the power of powerful taming beasts. After Ying succeeded in taming the giant steel wolves, he immediately ordered the mutants. Ying orders the mutant giant steel wolves to attack the truck convoy. They panicked about why the mutants were chasing them. Then Officer Lin gave the order to shoot them all. The truck convoy group was surrounded by the giant steel wolves, and they fought back by shooting. The soldiers who shot at the mutants had all lost because of the attack of the giant steel wolves. The situation here is getting worse, and Lin Yaokai's subordinates are trying to protect him. And they plan to immediately use the teleport skill to get out of this problem. Their situation was already very cornered, and he immediately used the nano-cage teleport technique. A dark purple aura of immense scale enveloped them. But because when using the teleport skill it takes up 1 kilometer of space, he couldn't do it because there was less than 1 kilometer of space available. And the capacity of the nano-cages is limited, so he plans to teleport to the ancient city wall. When they all wanted to escape by teleporting, Ying was suddenly behind the two of them. Lin was surprised why he was here, and he thought that the one who controlled this mutant to attack Lin was Ying. The statement made by Lin turned out to be answered correctly by Ying. Then Lin Yaokai was very angry and threatened to make him and those closest to Ying people. But Ying didn't listen to Lin's ramblings and immediately grabbed him by the neck. When Ying grabbed Lin's neck, his subordinates immediately teleported Lin. However, with Asura Ying's talent, he brings out Asura Dragon Slayer. Then the blows of the two skills collided. Ying managed to overcome the power of the teleport by catching his hand and holding it hard so that the skill didn't come out. Then when Lin's subordinates were in a locked state, Ying immediately finished him off without mercy. After finished off Lin Yaokai's subordinate, Ying immediately completed his mission, namely eliminating Lin Yaokai from the face of the earth. By pushing Lin into a crowd of mutant steel giant wolves, Ying's mission was completed by eliminating Lin Yaokai from the face of the earth forever. And now he will focus on the extermination of 10,000 races.